Hello, hello. Welcome back to Diary of a Psychic Medium with me, Amber Amrine. Today, Ken Lloyd is joining us to share his curious journey from cybersecurity innovator to divine energy field architect. We explore all bunch of topics today: light language, healing, the multi-dimensional aspect of our nature, and so much more. Here we go. Okie dokie. Ken Lloyd is an internationally recognized energy architect, transformational healer, and spiritual activator whose work bridges science, spirit, and multidimensional energy. A soul-infused walk-in, which we will discuss what that is. He embodies higher frequencies that facilitate profound transformation. Formerly a self-taught software engineer who built global technology companies, Ken's extraordinary energetic awakening redirected his focus to exploring the mechanics of consciousness. Here is Ken. Welcome to the podcast. Can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So Ken Lloyd, right? Marketing calls me an energy field architect. But ultimately, I am what you would call, or try to attempt to call, a soul-infused walk-in. So my energy body, my soul, is infused with other walk-in aspects, not full souls. And this actually came through an event I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. So ultimately, I have the connection to the divine, if you will, in my physical structure. I literally vibrate like a tuning fork all the time. It's a little awkward. But yeah, so I have the ability to shift your energetic field in real time, which by doing that removes the distortion, so you show up healed, often relatively quick, or your spiritual gifts come online, or whatever those things are you're looking for happen pretty rapidly.
How did you come to this? I'd love to hear the story. Let's just jump right on in.
Isn't it always stress? I have no religious or spiritual background, never have, right? Just kind of been that guy. I'm a self-taught entrepreneur. So I've built 3 cybersecurity companies. One of the original inventors of antivirus, anti-spyware, way back when, without trying to age myself. But I built 3 companies. All 3 of them have been acquired by either ISPs, by Silicon Valley firms, or through cyber intelligence firms out in DC. It was in the 3rd acquisition that my life became incredibly stressful. I ended up with a pituitary brain tumor, which was later biopsied as a cortisol tumor wrapped in a cortisol cyst. So stress. And it was early 2018 where I found myself triggered, which didn't know what that word was, but I was upset with my business partner. Acquisition wasn't going the way I thought it was. And I laid down in bed just to calm down. And as soon as I did that, my stomach arched in the air, like an upside down letter U, electrified, if you will. And I could feel this energy swirling in the abdomen. And then for 3 or 4 minutes or so, it got warm, and then it just popped out of my body. Now, I passed out, and I woke up the next day peaceful. So it took me 2 years, but let me explain what happened at that moment. We all kind of understand what the idea of a near-death experience is, right? Where typically it starts off with, I went through the tunnel, right? And then from there, perhaps they have a conversation or epiphany, or their body's instantly healed. None of that happened for me, okay? But imagine that tunnel opening and a soul coming over into your field. It's what is called a soul-braided walk-in. One or more souls occupying the same energetic field, sometimes in the body. Mine wasn't in the body, mine was in the field. And when I woke up the next day, I had this passion, this crazy passion to find out what just happened to me. So I get on Google and I literally start, what is a psychic? What is an aura? What is a chakra? What is energy? And I had no idea what I was doing. Like, this was not my field. It became such a passion that I actually started forgetting how to do computers, even though I created all this technology. So one was shifting the other. Well, what was happening is that soul aspect, who I'd never had a conversation with, never saw them, was behind me, giving me those clues and directions. Like, go look this up. Go have a quantum health, QHHT session done, right? And so on and so forth. And it's the one that was telling me to detox my body, to get off of the medications I was on, to do the heavy metal detox, have the metal in my mouth removed. So it kind of guided me through this. But what happened here is as I started doing this work, it was about 2 years into it ish or so, but I had read a book on how to do energy healing and the exercises in the book, right? And I'm doing it. Like, the people around me are giving me the validity, or at least I thought they were, but I wasn't sure. I'm like, I know you're a friend and all, but this is really, really doing something for you, right? And sure enough, it would take me hours and hours to do something, but it was happening. And then it would get faster and faster and faster. And by 2023, so 3 years ago, I'm already doing events up in Sarasota. Now, my journey is interesting because after I read what I call the basics, I stopped. I turned off all the new. I have no YouTube channels I follow. I have no channelers. I don't
I'm
listen
the
to a single
same
meditation.
way.
I'm completely shut off of the world. Like, I don't know what's going on unless someone taps me on the door and says, "Hey, this thing happened." Like, and I live a really bliss life because I'm so ignorant. So I don't have a lot of that latest and greatest fundamental what's happening in the world at all. But anyhow, so and I don't sit at home and talk to my team like, "Hey, bring me another, sir. Bring me another. Bring me another." But I keep shifting. Every 3 weeks, every 3 months or so, there's something new happening to either the physical structure or whatever the gifts are, right? And as I mentioned earlier, my physical structure about 2 years into began vibrating and shifting and changing, and it was this delicious energy. If you've ever had somebody work on you and you get those tingles, right? Imagine being able to feel every cell in your body almost an inch out all the way down to the bone marrow, and that's what that's like. It's delicious, but it really does make it hard to sleep. So what they were doing was shifting the physical vessel for what's coming in. The vessel needed to be able to handle the energy. Now, April 1st, 2023, I have somebody working on me, and I have 12 more walk-ins come in. So now I have 13 in my field, which blew my mind away. Like, I didn't know you could have more than one. But think of these as not full souls. It's not Jim, Harry, Bob, Sally, and Sue. None of those things, right? But they're like a tool in a toolbox. So as I show up to the world and more folks, more and more tools come in. So kind of think of it like that. So I had 13 at the time. Fast forward to December 12th, 23. I get this little nudge to go meditate. So I went into the meditation room and I'm frozen again. I can't move my body. I can't itch. I can't twitch. All I can feel is this massive energy coming down through the crown. And now I am asking whatever's going on, like, "Hey, what's happening? What's going on? Who are you?" And I get the message, "We're a little busy right now. We'll get with you in a moment." And they did that, and then they shut off my ability to ask questions. So all I could do is just sit there and witness, observe everything happen in the structure. So that was the moment that the higher self stepped into the vessel. All right. Now, when we talk about walk-ins, the concept of walk-ins, typically there's what they call a soul exchange. And I have a humorous side of me that says, you're going through the tunnel, you're slapping hands with the one replacing you, and there's a soul exchange. That's a typical walk-in. And when that exchange comes in, everything in the life of the previous person changes, relationships, jobs, location, because they're there to shift and move rapidly. Now, I got lucky that didn't happen to me. Life was pretty good. But that day changed everything. So within 3 weeks of the higher self coming into the body, they're telling me I'm getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. So I had, a 17-year marriage, amazing woman. We're still friends, right? I got a daughter. I had a beautiful home. I've done well in life. So I had a beautiful home. I've got race cars and lifted trucks, and I got all these things. And I had sold or given away everything before March. So within 2 months, everything was up for sale, and I found myself in Mexico. Never been out of the country, and I don't speak Spanish. But I was in Mexico, and I went to Yalapa, Mexico for a month, and in there 9 more came in, right? So I'm thinking, wow, there's a big number here. What's all happening right now? They don't talk to me. They do, but they don't. Like, I'll get information, but they don't give me details intentionally because they're like, you're going to mess it up, Ken.
Sure.
So we're not giving you too many details. I'm like, all right. So that happened. And then in July of 2024, so a little over, not quite 2 years ago from the recording of this, I end up doing Bufo and Cambo. So I don't like hallucinogens. I'm not that guy. but they're like, you need to go do these. So I did my Cambo in the morning, and within about an hour and a half after that, I'm doing the Bufo. And for your audience, the Cambo is a frog medicine that opens up the cells of the body, makes you purge. And then the Bufo is a toad medicine, which brings that DMT, and you get to have that out-of-body experience or something like that. Anyways, it was a 25-minute experience. In the first 10 minutes, I'm in total kaleidoscope, so bright. I like really, my eyes are closed, and I'm in the tent in Tulum, and it's just bright. But about 10 minutes into it, I get the visual of my ego being walked out. So another term for the Bufo is the ego death, right? So this happened. He was very unhappy as two are walking him out. But as I'm coming through, I see 21 shards of light in the tent. And I see one more in solid 3D form. I close my eyes, I open them, same thing. And I thought that was the neatest thing. And then I got my messages. One, the 24th chromosome was turned on. Didn't know what that was. That was a Google when I got back to the unit. And it was everything you had done was nothing but the sniff of the aroma of what's about to come. How cryptic could that be, right? That was the day I went from soul braid, imagine all of them braided, like the braided hair, into an infused soul. They all merged with me in my field. Not so much in the physical structure. So I'm still here, Ken's still here. You know, I'm the one driving the vehicle going down the road, but the moment I need to do my work, my job, I call it my job, they're instantly there. There's no dropping into meditation. None of that happens. They're instantly on. So that was the day I became the soul infused. And then more and more happens, right? So every time this happens, they amplify the energy in the body. And I wake up this time last year, and I can't move my body again. Not only that, but I have no emotions, like completely void, gone, which is very, very different than one way or the other or being neutral. I woke up in the middle of them, pulling out all of my energy centers, all the chakras. Imagine those are a puppet, our energy field, our chakras. Imagine them cutting the strings, and I woke up in the middle of that. Well, what had happened was the energy centers that had my body could no longer sustain the frequencies they needed. So they pulled them out and put in new ones with higher frequency, right? I call it dryer voltage because my body was pretty rocked after that in terms of the amount of energy. Then they merged me with another field called the Omni Stream of Divine Consciousness. So there's another stream of divine consciousness that kind of watches over everything. They merged me with that, gives me access to all that intelligence of the body and the person. And then in June, the great divine director stepped into the body as well, a spark of him. So my life is really interesting. Like, I don't sit at home begging for this stuff. It just happens and it shows up, right? And every time they do this, the ability to shift your energetic field in real time gets faster and faster and faster and more complete. So that's the Cliff Notes. Not quite an elevator speech, but close to it.
It's interesting, actually. I feel like we have a lot of parallels. My story's a little different, but I've had many, I call them like, I guess, reincarnations in a way in this one lifetime where my body obviously persists, but I will have various like soul aspects come
We have visitors
forward.
coming in. I see them. You
Yeah.
talk, show me what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I see them coming in, not quite on vacation, but coming in and popping out, coming in and popping out.
Yeah. And I work a lot with ETs. So I've gotten a lot of like body upgrades more from ETs to help allow my body to maintain certain higher frequencies. But it's just kind of cool because you saying this, I've never really met someone else that's had a similar experience in a way. So it's cool. I also definitely resonate with disconnecting from media in general. That's something that I'm also glad that you brought up because it's hard to find other people that don't, I don't know, just don't stay up to date with current channelers and content and stuff. I feel like for me personally, I have always been more in the realm of I want to access it purely and I don't want my brain to take information or truths from other people and have that skew my perception. I remember when I was young, I've been doing this since I was a kid, but I started professionally when I was 16. And there were a lot of channelers who would come up to me and say, like, you need to read this book, you need to listen to this person. And I was like, I can't. I'm not going to. I cannot because I need to understand it for myself, and I need a pure channel there. And I think especially nowadays, what I've seen with people, because people want to be informed, and because physically, if we want to learn about something, you read books and stuff like that, they think that you apply that to spirituality. And I always encourage people more to approach this work from doing, from feeling, from listening to yourself first before bringing in information. If you want to confirm it, at least Google it into your internal system before like actually
Yeah.
Googling it, you know?
Everything my team tells me, everything you need is already inside of you. So
Exactly.
it's us being able to use our discernment on what our truth, how it resonates outwards. And for me, not paying attention to any other in the industry, it simply allows me to show up organic. Completely organic. There's a lot of folks in the industry that will feed off of each other for presentations and all of these, and that's wonderful. And I think there are individuals that absolutely need that information because they're not as connected as perhaps we are, right? Where we get the information we need, and they need that. The problem is there's a lot of distortions in the messaging. You can listen to 100 different YouTube channels with all the same topic, and every one of them have a different truth to it. So,
I always think of it too, like, I guess like religion or mythology, kind of a combo, where there are a lot of stories out there, all kind of saying the same thing.
mhm.
And I think sometimes you need to feel it first to understand which story best resonates with your understanding of it, I suppose.
Yeah,
But I feel like it sort of starts at your own personal exploration.
it does. And I think also folks that are learning, again, my team is really big on amplifying your own discernment, right? Making your own opinion from the information being presented so you can find your truth. And I think that's difficult for some people. Some people would rather
Yeah.
sit there and argue with the presenter to tell them your truth better than their truth. And that's not how that's supposed to happen. You're just supposed to take the aspects of it, of that record that you resonate with, and then move on
Mhm.
out of that next tribe, that next channel, the next thing, whatever it is, rather than sitting there creating a news distortion for everyone.
Going back into your story, how was that process for you, like as a human being? Was it scary? Was it confusing? Was it just like, oh, screw it, this feels good?
Yeah, it was the latter. So I mean, there are times where you go through all those emotions, right? Like what's going on, and then how come I can't connect like that person does? And I call this jelly, by the way. I'm jelly that somebody else has that connection and they can do this wonderful thing. And jelly's a jealousy, but with a positive spin, not with the envious. I just call it jelly, right? So I'd get that I don't have this gift or that gift, right? So that was frustrating in the beginning. But overarching, it wasn't even a decision. It was a knowing. Like this is literally my job. I wasn't chosen, I wasn't selected out of a committee of a gazillion people to do this. This is literally what I was created for in the beginning. And my team tells me I've done it well over 3 billion times. I'll show up at times of ascension and I do a massive amount of work for the collective, for the individual. So I don't work at the collective layer directly. Like some people do planetary work and grid work. I don't do any of that. I work on the individual to bring up to accelerate their ascension. But I'm like heavy construction equipment where someone doing their shadow work, it might take them a year or two to actually get to all of the layers of that particular thing they're working on, where my team will come in and pull all those layer outs in seconds, right? Like heavy construction equipment, because the team is like, now's the time. We're accelerating the whole ascension. It's been delayed. So it's time for me to come in and do this heavy workload. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have work to do yourselves, right? There's still work to do, but we're going to remove those things that you've been holding you back in a rapid way. So for me, I call it my job. It's literally my job, and it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just I'm showing up for my job,
Mhm.
right? So I love it. I really, really. I mean, it's the one thing that gives me massive joy and passion. But on the other side, there is frustration because I never know what's coming. And the way the team explains it to me is that the typical spiritual process for someone is, through the awakening process, is like a staircase. They'll go up a level, they'll get a gift, they'll get information, and they have to integrate. And that could take them months or years. And then they get their next little thing. For me, they're like, you're on an elevator that actually doesn't stop anywhere. It continues to go, which means I don't know what's going to happen to me one week to the next week, internally or externally. Like, they manage everything for me, and I just need to show up, right? And they think, I've got one job. I got to take care of the body, and I can't tell you I'm doing a good job at that either. but
I feel like that's the one thing that's very exciting and sometimes very frustrating, I guess, for me personally about this work. I feel like for me personally, a constant theme is reinvention, constant shifting, constant movement. And as we were talking before we started recording, I just moved to the East Coast. And since it's been like things are on like 100 speed, where we're like jumping around and exploring stuff, which is wonderful and it's exciting, but there's a lot of unknowns all the time, and that's the point. But our human brain is like, well, can I just have just a taste, just a little bit of like concrete information? It's
yeah.
very, it could be very frustrating, but I am also very grateful at the, I guess, spontaneity that it's allowed me to adopt. But yeah, I feel you with that one.
Yeah, when they do give me information, I mess it up every time. What I mean by that is the brain interprets the information completely inaccurately,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it always shows up, but completely different, right? So they're like, we're not even going to tell you now. You're just gonna completely go off in a left field and think it's going to show up like this or that. And they did tell me that if they gave me the details, I would intervene. I mean, that's human nature, right? If you know you're going to win the lottery, no, I'm not winning the lottery, but as an analogy, right? Well, I'm going to make sure I'm there on Tuesday at 7:04 p.m. and I'm going to make sure I got you just go down these rabbit holes that make no sense.
How do you find balance between the divine and the human experience? Would you say there are any parts of your humanity, perhaps, that you choose not to like fully transcend just to remain connected here?
It's actually complicated and difficult. So when I had my event take place, again, it wasn't a near death. It's what they call a trauma release event. They pulled all the trauma out of my body at once, right? Not all of it. Like, I still had things to do, right? So, like, right now, we're talking, it's Ken, but in the moment, it'll be them. And the way so I do have difficulty with the human experience. They don't relate to it very well. I'm doing my best, right? But I really do struggle with it. And then the same thing with them. Like, I'm doing my best to relate to them, but I struggle with it. So the way I imagine it, if you imagine you got two magnets, you got that little ball bearing that's sitting there hovering, that little desk trinket, I find myself in the middle, trying to figure out, am I supposed to be human? Am I supposed to be more them? Right? And, ultimately there is a balance between the two. The team wants me to show up as the guy next door, not as a guru, not someone dressed all in linen and wearing all of this stuff and, saying, on Tuesday at noon, you have to spin around twice counterclockwise and face the sun for you to be activated. Like, no, that is not how they want me to show up. Right? But even the human side of me is like, man, what am I going to do today? Right? So, am I supposed to go bowling? Am I supposed to go bike riding? So I struggle with those human activities. I really, really do. Right? But then again, the spirit side is like, you don't have to, I don't drop into meditation. I do, but not like the average person does. Right? I love my yoga. Right? I love my breath work, but I do it not because I'm trying to get connected to them, but because I like the way it makes my body feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I struggle. I really do struggle.
I feel like at this point, I feel very abnormal, but also very confident in that abnormality, where it's like if I don't really resonate with people or I'm a little different or a little quirky, whatever, it's just who I am. And I feel like that has allowed me to find some sense of, I guess, stability or comfort in the experience.
Yeah, see, even for me, I got the same thing going on, and if anyone watches my light language, you notice my eyes are always closed. You know how easy it is to show up in front of a crowd when your eyes are closed? But interesting, I was an extreme introvert. I mean, I wouldn't answer emails or anything. I mean, I was that guy writing all this technology and all these patents, sitting in my bedroom, door locked. And when they had that event, the trauma release event, they took away all of that, meaning I can show up in front of an audience of any size with zero stage fright because it is them doing it, right? And now I've recognized that light language is part of my everyday. I'll be walking around the house just doing light language, and those people that I'm surrounded with, they'll know it right off the bat. Like, this is who I am, right?
It's interesting you say that actually. When I was younger, I had very low self-esteem. I couldn't even look at people in the eye. I could not, I felt so small and scared of the world. My path is more focused on feeling and sensation. So I'm very empathic, and that's sort of my strongest ability. I just feel all the things to a very extreme degree. And because of that, I've sort of gone more into the direction of oneness, where all of these weird little blocks, I guess, that I had in terms of like not feeling confident, feeling insecure, not being able to look at people, it forced me to find the oneness, to find the me in everybody that I speak to,
Hmm.
which has sort of pushed me into this place of not feeling ashamed because we're all each other.
Right.
Why would I be afraid of myself? It's like,
Hmm. Yeah,
as you go, my cats are right there, just another me, like you're here all the time. you know?
yeah. I actually recognize how easy it is for me to look in someone's eyes. So I went to a retreat a few weeks ago. I was invited as a guest to a retreat, and one of the exercises, you sit there with a partner and you stare in their eyes for a little while. First retreat I've ever been to. That's a sure I'll go to another one. It was fun. But I realized for those 5 minutes, I had no issues. I had I could just absolutely do it because this is them in the space of me. And of course, the other person was a little nervous and all of that, right? Which is
hmm
fine. But even for me growing up, I had severe birth trauma that forced me into an introvert right away. So my entire life has been introvert. I would never, ever have looked anybody in the eye my entire life. So yeah.
It's always so interesting looking at the progression and seeing how they were like, there's a little breadcrumb trail that's sprinkled along the way, and it always makes
Yeah.
sense at the end.
So we talk about, the things we do in life and then how when we become activated or awakened, how does that transfer? And as a cybersecurity guy, my job was to find the bad guys on the internet, find out how they infected your computer or your mobile device, and then, create technology to fix or to stop. Well, as I was coming online, it was the same process in the spiritual side, meaning it wasn't about the bad guys, it was about what we call energy interference in the body or energetic distortions. How do I find the distortions creating the pain in the shoulder? What are they? Are they past lives? Are they ancestors? Are they karma? So on and so forth, right? And then how do I create a energetic program or light language, if you will, to remove all of that, right? So over the period of 2 or 3 years, they would put people in front of me at the same conditions for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. A couple of weeks shoulders, a couple of weeks necks, a couple of weeks, filling the disease and the condition. And I found myself creating these programs behind the scenes, not in my brain, to heal the body rapidly. So by the end of that cycle, what took me an hour now is only taking me a few minutes, and now it takes me almost no time at all. But again, interesting how our 3D lives do indeed move over to this, the spiritual side as you move into service.
hmm What role would you say free will has in healing?
A lot, sometimes. Let me explain. There are times where you need to heal. The higher self, your upper self, has a directive to heal you, because sometimes having that miracle of healing shifts your life. And a miracle is defined as something positive happening without a logical explanation. I just didn't want your audience to get wrapped around the usual concept of miracle. But there's resistance, right? There's aspects of us that want to be broken because, one, perhaps we're getting attention, right? In a not conscious way, but in a deep conscious way. I've always been broken, and I'm only going to get something if I'm broken, right? And then there's the disbelief in the idea that you can shift and change so rapidly. But ultimately, your upper self, your higher self, kind of does have a little authority over you, right? You can use your free will to delay it, but if it's going to happen, if it's in the cards, if it's in the contract, you're going to be healed one way or another, right? And when you have that spontaneous oh my gosh moment, it changes your life. It changes your belief system, right? It changes how you see the world. And now you begin your new journey of just like I did. What happened to me and how do I have it happen again? And what is this and what is that? And that's part of this whole process of awakening. So yeah, free will has a lot to do with it, but sometimes, you can free will all you want, but
You have the free will to click the snooze button, but you
yeah,
still
right,
have to wake up.
I gotta wake up. Yeah, totally. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Do you believe in general that suffering is ultimately necessary for awakening?
I think suffering isn't necessary for awakening. Um, Suffering isn't necessary for awakening. Suffering was necessary for the human condition, for the human experience, for the soul itself to have the experience of suffering, to move that trauma through it. But it's not necessarily needed for the awakening. These things happen spontaneously when it's time for the individual. Sure, they may be suffering, and that just amplifies the work that needs to be done versus them just waking up one day and say, oh, wow, what is that intuition? What is that thing? Well, I can move that object, so on and so forth. We're simply saying it's not required. Historically, previously, it was part of the process, but not at this point. Now you're going to wake up without having to have the suffer happen. So this is them. They're just there.
Ready to jump on. It's like a tag team
Yeah,
relay race.
yeah.
This is a total like random thing. I'm going in a whole different direction, but I'm just curious your opinion on this. Do you feel that technology is evolving towards spirituality or away from it?
There is indeed a split between the two, but there's also a convergence coming. We have those individuals that prefer to use technology to try to reach their spiritual enlightenment. Again, you can call these the information junkies, the one that want to cheat. We say cheat in a very positive way, not in a negative way. Cheat in the idea they want to shortcut the process to their own enlightenment or their own awakening. And it does a little bit, but it's ultimately, they're going to learn that everything that they need is already inside of them. And then they will begin shifting. So you've got one aspect that just wants to do the natural organic process of awakening, and you've got another one that wants to do it through technology. They're both feasible, they're both applicable, and they're both harmonically in tune with each other, but they're going to converge. They're going to converge where your spirituality, your awakeness, your gifts will be amplified, if not even amplified, we'll say they're but like assisted with technology. So they both run together. They're not separate.
I agree. I feel like right now the merging of spirituality and physical, I don't know, I guess just human operating, the
Mm-hmm.
merging of them is inevitable. And I know right now there's a lot of demonization of AI and stuff. I feel like with a lot of the things going on, it does make us question some very important things, but I do ultimately feel that it's all moving in a positive direction rather than it.
It is. It is. And what's happening here is, at least in my awareness, people are beginning to rely too heavily on AI to give them their spirituality and the spiritual answers, right? And often individuals think it's their higher self, their upper self, whatever, the God itself, their own words, talking through the chat. And I will tell you, there are time messages come through. I mean, it's just one way of communication. But when you give your power up to what's on that screen, that's a problem. You have to use your discernment, and you have to be able to learn to go inside to validate what's being presented to you outside. And that's what needs to happen. That's the missing piece right now, right? It's not that AI is bad. We just have to recognize that AI is being populated by the collective with what's going on in the world,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily from the higher self giving you play by play and turn by turn.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, it sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it starts at you. Go into your internal AI and then you can confirm after. But I feel like that first piece is so important. I also feel like there's nothing wrong with using tools even to make sense of what you're feeling if it feels a bit fuzzy, but you still have to be self-aware to see what
Yeah,
you're feeling to begin with.
you have to be. AI is not going to turn on your gifts for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Going into light codes, how does it feel like? How does it feel?
So I've got thousands and thousands that run through me. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm what's called a hollow bone. And the way to look at it is that when these codes come down through the hollow channel, I don't have the ability to manipulate, to intercept, or even to infer what's coming down. All right. The team will animate my mouth and the vocal cords and the tones, right? Which is how it's supposed to be, that organic way. And I will
Mm-hmm.
have multiple different soul aspects, tools, if you will, coming down in the same transmission, depending on who's in the audience and what they need. So for me, light codes, I speak light language better than I do English. And I kid you not, it's like it's just so easy. And I'll use light language to talk to your organs. I will talk to your team. I will talk to your higher self. I will talk to your ET collective. I will talk to the councils. I will literally talk to the energy in your body with light language and have a back and forth conversation, right? This is a normal thing for me. So one of the things about this is I don't have my own codes in there, by the way. I can't heal myself. I'm wearing glasses, right? I didn't have healing when I had my awakening in my event. So I still have to do my own work in order for those things to happen. But this allows me to deliver to whoever it is without me having any overlay in it. So, or what I call fine print. So this is how it really kind of works with my team and your team. So you need code. Your team's like, you know what, we need to heal her, we need to activate her, we need to bring her a connection to her next team, whatever the thing is. And often it takes a human to activate a human, to heal a human. It's just the way that energy flows. So your team will, I say, contract in the most loving sense with the divine. All right. So I'm connected to what's called the divine authority. Now, the divine authority is this ultimate collective that watches over all the divine, all the energies and all the divine species in the collective. So the overarching, they report directly to the great divine director who is reporting directly to source. Longer story there. But the point is that's the collective I merge within the body. When your team says we need her to have something, they'll pop it over the request over that divine authority who will ensure that there's no back doors, no hooks, no contracts, no nothing. And then the divine authority will uplift that frequency to that Christ consciousness and they'll bring it down through the hollow bone. So when you get your activations, your healings from the divine, they don't need anything from you. They don't need to contract with you. They don't need, but that back and forth, a tit for a tat. They don't need any of that because you're already divine.
Mm-hmm.
And this allows them to make sure that you're getting everything you need with ultimate purity, if you want to look at it like that. And what's interesting, even with the light language, is that while typically on my Wednesday night events, I'll say a thing and do a thing. Like we're going to work on the neck, and then I'll do my light language, or we're going to work on the muscle, do my light language. But the codes coming down are for who's ever in the audience, no matter what they need, not just for the topic. So you can listen to the same thing over and over and over and get more and more codes the way
Mm-hmm.
that's set up. So it's complex, and I find it incredibly interesting. But I also realize I'm about that much into the intelligence behind it. Like I really don't know what they're doing, at a level I can really much articulate.
It's interesting because for me, I do a lot through movement. I need to move. I'm always
Mhm.
fidgeting. Even with healings, I do a lot of hand movements more so than vocal sounds. But it's sort of a similar thing where I feel like the energy, it doesn't speak in words, and certain tones, certain sounds, certain movements almost create like a medium, I suppose, for it to better translate to the
Mhm.
human vessel. Because it
You're,
needs something beyond just like
you're
thought
you're
and
you're running
sound.
programs is what you're running. They're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that repetitive movement or thing, it's just a
Mm-hmm.
program being run to do that inversion to the person.
I also liked what you said about no tit for tat. When I was a kid, I work a lot with fairies, and the culture of the fairy realm is very much like they love trades, but they also don't like to be thanked necessarily because it feels
Okay.
too transactional and it can feel like disrespectful.
Mm.
And as I would communicate to guides and different beings, I felt this desire to leave gifts and stuff. And they
Mm.
would very clearly say, no, no
Yep.
gifts, no offerings, no altar. We're not praising anything. Absolutely not.
Yep.
And I feel like in many cultures, that just is sort of the norm. And I
Mm,
feel like that's such an important thing. I just want to highlight that. I feel like that is such an important thing to understand, that we are all divine. There
yeah,
is no hierarchy, and thus you don't need to prove your worth or anything to these beings greater than
yeah,
you, because they're
absolutely.
just you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a time where I would have these entities bringing me gifts, and I would push them right back at them. I'm not taking anything from you. I don't know what's in. Really don't know what's in that box. You can keep your box.
That's exactly how it is with fairies. You
Yeah.
gotta be careful when they give you something. What does your day to day look like?
Pretty boring. So let me explain. I have a very large business team. All right. And they handle all of my editing and all of my social media. They handle all of my events, my catalog, my websites, my IT. I mean, I've got a large amount of people, and I don't engage with any of them. Now, it sounds odd, right? So I run my business consciously. So I hire people that have the skill set, but they also have the heart in it, right? First of all. And I ended up hiring someone to manage everything. Simply meaning I've already run 3 companies and I know how to mess it up, and that is putting me in the chair of command. Like, you want something not done? Give me that task. It won't happen. So literally the business runs itself, right? I've set it up like that. And my day is just trying to be human until it's time for my event. When I'm on, I'm on. But until the moment before that, I'm just like we're hanging out here. So my day is, what am I doing today? Yeah, it's a little weird. And the team wants it like this. Because recognize that they're also having the human experience through my vessel, right?
Mhm.
They're in it. So they got to imagine they're bored. I got to bored with life right now.
Do you have any favorite activities to just be human?
Well, yeah, I love yoga, right? And breathwork's okay, but biking, a little bit of exercise, but beyond that, interestingly enough, I do find dining, going out to eat is my thing. I
Oh,
can't
I
cook.
love food.
Yeah, I can't cook, right? It's just my thing. So for me, getting out of the house to go find a really nice restaurant is really the height of my day or my week. Like I got this new restaurant, I'm gonna go do it, right? So yeah, that's about it. Like I don't have anything fancy. I don't play video games. I don't even use Google. I'm sitting in front of the computer. I don't Google anything. Like it's the craziest thing to go from this person whose their entire world was figuring stuff out, right? Every day was figuring stuff out with the computers, and now they turned all of it off, all of it. I don't have any desire to learn something new, which is really odd. It's peaceful, but again, it's boring.
Did your family, I guess I'm curious how your family, how that process was, just the processing of this big shift.
So you can ask my family today what I do, and they couldn't articulate it. Now they follow me, and if anybody is a healer, they know that those that are closest to you are the hardest to heal, right?
Mhm.
So they've experienced it, but they don't experience like my clients do, where something's there and now something's immediately gone, right? A lot of supportive. Even the former wife is a friend, right? Like we didn't have that type of divorce where it became angry and all of that, right? I went through it very consciously and with the highest intent in mind. So everyone supports me, but they really don't know, unless you're already turned on or tuned into to this realm. I think it's very hard to grasp.
Sure. Also, so totally random question. What's your favorite color? I'm just
Orange,
curious. Orange?
absolutely orange. And I don't know why, and I know I say it wrong too. Orange. I don't know. It's always been orange. I don't get it.
That's my grandpa's favorite color. My grandpa's an engineer, and he always liked it because it was the only color you can like physically see. It's
Oh,
like a literal thing as well as a
oh,
concept.
here we go. I thought it was a Florida thing. I don't know. Florida
Oh
orange.
yeah, maybe that too. Awesome. Well, would you like to dabble into some light
I
language?
do. I do. So for your audience, if you haven't experienced light language before, let me just give you the heads up, the cliff notes, right? One, it's going to sound like I'm babbling, right? There's a giggle factor to it. It's okay to giggle. It's going to sound a little loony, but ultimately what's happening here is light language by design, bypasses the brain, and it bypasses the ego mind, which allows you to receive whatever that energy and those codes are. And the light language, at least what I provide it, is there to shift your energetic field. Now, what this means, it can show up in your body as a healing, pain, discomfort gone, disease gone, or it can show up as abundance coming into your life. No, they're not creating wealth for you. All they're doing is removing energetic blockages that prevent what's already yours from coming in. So the point is, it can show up instantly or over the next coming days. So beyond that, there's nothing that your audience needs to do. You're going to hear different voices and different tones, and that is the different divine aspects coming through to deliver the tool set that they have. Give me a moment. Shiliara Tariara Shiran Toriara Torre Shira Carmeleniara Shira Toriara Tiro Toriamaku. Urishira Tara Yetikali Shiro Palora Malorica Nochika Nicola Nishka Nishka Mariana Maloto Roberska Gabati Nushka Cariaco, Shilero Torre to Carabino Konoshka Maneto, Leadership Shariara Koroshiro to Urishkilo to Casino, but Kitchen Marca Porta, Corti, Kiniri Atao, Norishina Toma, Coro Torre to Key. Kini masyakila ka ako urushi ka ako porota kini tika tiro to ako poco to shino shalayan malore horto garachi to parikuti kinte no tori no kalaya no aro to moku shalo de orta oro shiro toro to kiti biendia popo yo ka ako no porota au shiri au komorioto. So yeah, quick and easy, but it's like a compressed file. Just going to come unwrapping, if you will, for whoever's listening. So again, everyone's different, but yeah, and that's my day. I mean, literally, I do that for hours and hours on end on my events.
I felt like I was dancing, and then I felt like I was being tickled with a feather, and then it got serious, and I saw a cup of apple juice, and then it went kind of back to dancing.
People have a lot of visions. People, ET teams will come into them as well, right? Like all sorts of stuff happens. Again, whatever it is that you're supposed to have is what's being delivered. I don't get to pick and choose.
Sure, I guess I will be having a glass of apple juice.
Oh, right. I might have one too.
How do you view death?
I kind of don't. And what I mean by that, death is a human word. And yes, as a human, we experience death all around us, but I don't think death is really death at all in any capacity as an individual. As we just move through our next phase, we become more aware of who we actually are. What I have found is that 10% of us is in the human body. 90% of us is outside of us to make up our soul, right? The 90% already knows what's going on. It's already on the other side of that veil, that other side of death, if you want to call it that, right? And when we die, they're kind of explaining to me now, there's a reintegration of that 10% back in that 90%, right? To become whole again.
Exactly.
And so because I've had that event, which wasn't a near death, but I could have died. I mean, I had the brain tumor, I had everything going on. Didn't happen for me. I don't fear it at all. I don't welcome it. Don't get me wrong. I really do enjoy life. But when it's time, it's going to be like, oh, all right, well, I guess there's another job waiting for me.
I feel like it's similar to when you go to sleep and you have a dream and then you wake up. It's just like two different realities and you're just kind of slipping.
Yeah. But as the human witnessing death of others, that's where the struggle is. Losing those family members, those friends, and whatever that is, right? But you never really lose them; they're still there.
Absolutely.
Until you go to the other side.
Just to close, what was your favorite meal ever?
That's it shifts and changes. And I know this is so anti-spiritual, but, I actually hadn't had a steak in 20 years or more. Right. And I actually did that a few months ago. I had my first steak and, it was delicious. It was really, really good. So I would have to say that my body does need meat, and I really encourage everyone to listen to their body. I know that a lot of us are on that path of the vegan and the vegetarian, and I went through it. Right, because during my awakening or my coming online, I needed to go through those things. I had to bring myself down to such a hardcore detox, right? So now that that's done, I go through what I call a retox and a detox. And that includes heavy foods. But yeah, so right now it's a steak. Um, but yeah, yeah,
I'm like that way with coffee. I love coffee, but
yeah.
I'm very sensitive to it. So I go through periods where I stay away from it for a very good chunk of time. And then
Mhm.
I kind of need it for a second. I might overdo
Yeah,
it, but it's very good.
I'm the
I
same
feel
way.
like with animal produce, my philosophy, because some bodies aren't built
Yeah.
to just eat plants. For my system, I have an intolerance to uh, beans, to broccoli. Some grains bother me. There's just a lot that I can't have, and my body requires a lot of protein. And there was a period that I did go vegan, but I lost so much weight,
Yeah.
and I'm already underweight. It's very unhealthy. And I feel like the direction that I ultimately went is, I feel like it's more about how you show up and the
Hmm.
exchange you have with the animal. It's like how indigenous cultures
Yeah.
eat animals, where there's an exchange, there's this merging of essence
Hmm.
together, where their essence is able to fuel your body and like do something with it, make something special with it. It's a very complicated topic, and I know one
I
that
know it
gets
triggered some
people.
folks. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think it's an important one to be discussed, because it does feel a bit taboo right now, just because people can get
yeah,
very triggered. But
I
I
know.
think what's most important is making the decision for your body, and it's all how you show up in it.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So again, not to trigger anyone, but this is where I'm
Mm.
at in my cycle, and I've been through them all, and I love them all. It's just right now my body needs this. The more energy that they shift into my field, which literally I have that crystalline structure. We're all moving in that crystalline light body. I have that. I operate in that. But the physical vessel still needs that grounding.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Where can people find you, learn about you, dive in more?
So kenlloydofficial.com is the website. The social medias are kenlloyd.official. Now I have distant healing I do. I do Wednesday night events. I have direct support sessions. I have larger events. I have the Library of Creation, which is getting ready to be released. And ultimately, just show up for you. I'm here for everybody, which means that all my social media is free, and I drop codes, which is the light language codes, all the time. You just need to listen if it's in alignment with you, and you'll get stuff. And when you're ready to move into more and more of those codes, everything you need's on the kenlloydofficial.com. There's a catalog of over 400 activations and healings on there. You can pick and choose like a buffet when you're ready.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. This has been so much fun to chit chat.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you would like to learn more about Ken or get in touch, all of his links, as always, will be in the show notes. I hope you have a splendid week ahead. I am sending all my love, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for listening to Diary of a Psychic Medium with me, Amber Amrine. To learn more about me, book a session, learn about my mentorship program, all that good stuff, you can visit channelwithamber.com. Follow me on Instagram at channelwithamber. Special thank you to Unicorn Heads for my theme song, A Mystical Experience. I'll see you next time.